everyone. It's a delight to be here. Thank you, Charlotte. I'd first like to acknowledge the traditional landowners of the land on which we stand today. I'd also like to acknowledge past, present and future elders. And today my wish is for there to be a wonderful day of sharing knowledge, friendship and opening your heart to new ways of knowing more about you. So think yourself to be amazing. That's easy, isn't it? Did it work? Did it? Instant. You're amazing. But then you go out to do something and you go, I'm not so amazing. And she's better than me. He's better than me. She kind of got more than me. And you're not amazing anymore. Then you go to another course, you read a book, and you're amazing. And then life goes, slap. And you go, oh, I'm not so amazing. I don't know what happened. And wow, look at her. She's just doing so well. Everything falls into place for her, no matter what she does. It just happens. I'm not so amazing. You can read as many books as you like. You can spend as much time in courses as you like. But it's what happens here and here that matters. So how do I come to be standing before you? When my family, I came from a large family, used to say to me as a little girl, what are you going to do with your life, Gwenda? Oh, it's only a little girl, but I would say, I'm going to be a nurse. I want to be a nurse. I realised that dream when I was 16. I became a nurse. And a traditional nurse, somewhat different to these days. Bless their socks. And I found that the way that people dealt with pain, the way that people dealt with death, because, ladies and gentlemen, some of the things I'm going to share with you this morning will trigger things for you, and please take it to your heart to know that it is a way to open more of your heart, not to bring you distress. Because as a nurse, I've certainly seen my fair share of suffering, death and recovery. But it was as my years went on and I was looking at the way people responded to their circumstances that made me think there's got to be something better than this. Then we would have ladies come in who would have a breast off because of cancer. And in the same room would be another lady next to her who had come in to have her boobs lifted because she wanted to look better than that one over there. Who do you think had the most pain? Who do you think needed the most analgesics? And who took the longest to recover? The lady that had the breast off with cancer. Things don't always work out the way that you might want them to. So to think yourself to be amazing, it's hard. It's not something you can just read a book about, go to a course about and be amazing. It doesn't happen that way. So looking at these things that were happening with different sicknesses and people's recovery, I decided I wanted to know more about the human body. So I went into theatre. So I'm really good with a blunt knife. I can take you out and put you back together. Sometimes it doesn't go where it should have, but it goes back. Then I experienced some really amazing things in theatre that got me thinking even more outside the square. One particular lady changed my life forever. And I always say and give my love to her because she is why I'm here today. I've never forgotten her, and that is over 30 years ago now. 30 years, wow. No boob job here though. So this lady came into the theatre, and this is in the 70s, and she came in to have an abdominal tumour removed. Now in the 70s that wasn't common. These days it's every other patient. So I was a senior scrub nurse. So we opened her up and we got to what's called the augmentum, and it's an amazing organ that protects your internal organs. And if you get bumped in the stomach, it protects your organs from being damaged. When we got to hers, it was all grey and lumpy, and I hadn't seen one like that before. And the surgeon said, suture up. who didn't ever question a surgeon, ever, but he saw the look over my mask and he said, well, you can see the same thing as me. This lady's got 14 days to live. Just like that. I was a young nurse, my head was just spinning and I thought, oh, 14 days. Why did he say 14 days? Why didn't he say 28? Why didn't he say 17? Wow, why 14? I could not get my head around that. And then he said, when this lady is awake enough to speak to, I want the ward to call us and you will come with me to deliver the news. That was a never happened. That was the role of the ward nurse, not the scrub nurse. So I went with him and he said, when I'm speaking to her, I want you to hold her hand. Okay, so we go to the lady and she was not awake. If any of you have had anaesthetics, general anaesthetics, you know it takes some time to be awake. She was awake enough to know she was being spoken to by the surgeon, but that was all. She did not know me in the least. And your instincts, your spirit, your soul knows when there is something wrong. So without her being conscious, as you are now, she knew something was amiss. And he put his hand over her heart and I held her other hand. But what I didn't know was what was coming next. And he said to her, when you are fully awake, I would like your husband to come and collect you and take you home. And she was trying to battle past the fog of the anaesthesia. And he said, and in 8 days, there's another timeline. In 8 days, I want you back in here because in 8 days you are going to be extremely sick. You have 14 days to live. Make the most of being home. That was it. Think yourself to be amazing, huh? So, we go back to theatre. I just could not get my head around what I'd just been part of and experienced, and we left her in tears. So 8 days later, I was on the ward because if our list had finished, we would be sent to the ward, and I was most often sent to the surgical ward because I'd been the scrub nurse. She came in, and yes, she was extremely sick. She didn't recognise me, she didn't know who I was, but I knew who she was. I laid her out on the 14th day. Changed my life forever. And I decided that day, no one was going to tell me when I'm going to die. No one is going to tell me when my life's done. So I set about finding as much as I could about how to be amazing and how to live a glorious life and to own my life. And I like to share that around the world with people, men, women, children, because I believe everyone deserves to live a glorious life. Would you agree? It's your right. Thank you. You weren't born to suffer. You weren't born to be unwell. And you sure weren't born to have someone else tell you you've got 14 days to live. But here we go with the fun part. Who remembers being born? Oh, come on. Really? Gee. So you go zoom into this world and you arrive into the arms of a stranger. You've been cooking up in there in mum for that period of 9 months if you're lucky, sometimes earlier, sometimes a bit later. And you arrive and it's a bit of a shock. Whoa, what's this? And immediately you've arrived into a land of feelings, emotions, vibrations that you just don't understand. The moment you're held by your mother, she's filled with emotions of looking at this incredible new life that is hers. Then you're whisked away and you're handled by other people. You're handled by their emotions, by their connections and whatever is going on with them, and you're a little sponge and you take it all on, but you have got no idea what it is that you're taking on. By the time you're 2, you get those temper tantrums going, but you actually don't know what you're responding to. You have no idea. By the time you're 4, you actually don't know who you are because everything that you do, you say, you mimic. You are the environment. You are what has been put upon you, the expectations, the demands. And you mimic what you see. So you actually don't know by the time you go to school who you truly are. Would you agree with me? So if you go through your life that way because you don't know any different and you live a life under other people's expectations, how can you be amazing? How can you possibly be amazing in your own shoes? So something I like to ask people is, whose shoes do you walk in? Do you walk in your own? How many of you have heard yourself saying, I'm so much like my mother, I've got her hips, I've got a bad shoulder, oh, I get migraines. Just like my mum or my grandmother. Anybody? Sound familiar? So you're not yourself. And unfortunately, until maybe this year, maybe last year, we weren't encouraged. Nobody, men, women, children, you are not encouraged to find out who you are and to understand your responses to situations, to circumstances. You've never been taught, you've only ever mimicked and known to behave and respond the way that you've seen around you. And the biggest thing, particularly for women, bless you males, I love you to bits, I got married several times, I love you so much. But I was trying to keep up with Elizabeth Taylor, it didn't work very well for me. As women, there's so many expectations and you just always want to fit in. How many of you can walk into the room and own it? Own that room. Yes. Well done to you. It's not an easy thing to do. How many of you find no easier to say, or is it, I'm sorry, I'll try and get that done for you. So as you go through your life, and it's never too late to start, think about who you want to say you're going to die. Are you going to own that? Are you going to make sure that you determine that you live a glorious life and that you decide the way you want to be in your life? Or are you going to live under the umbrella of expectations and other people's wants of you? And I've got to say, it is the same for men, it just happens a little bit differently. If you are a grandmother, if you are a mother, or you are going to be a mother, empower yourself first. And then let that trickle off and let those learnings come to the little ones around you. Let's think about any teachers now. Bless your socks. Do I got any teachers in the room? Okay. So when you go to class each day, in with you comes a huge energy field. It's your energy field. So whatever you started the day with, whatever you carried over from yesterday, you bring into those children. And your energy impacts into their energy because our energies are all porous and they all mingle in with each other. So next time you walk into the class, think about the energy that you're bringing into those children because children are sponges. They take it up and then they go home and they act out, or they may act out in the day and they actually don't know why they're acting out. It's not their emotion. Now when it comes to disease and illness, for my 36 years of experience, but I'm only 28, I'm not sure how that happened, I've come to find that the way you think and the way you buy into your emotions is what starts you off with illness, disease and sickness. So if you use words like, I have endometriosis, my endometriosis, my migraines, my back, you are actually becoming that energy, you are becoming that field of thought. Whereas if you were to say, oh, You need to really go and sit down and have a think about what this is I'm feeling. Then you can extricate yourself from the emotional attachment. And when you get a harness on not being consumed by the emotions that you feel, you see life and you feel life very differently, and the cells of your body respond differently. I used to play a lot of hockey, basketball, maniac weightlifter, all sorts of crazy stuff. And then I busted the cruciate ligament in my knee. And the surgeon said he would not operate until I had restored all of the muscles in my leg, which had been pretty awesome before that, but they diminish after doing that to your knee. So I figured, well, I would use all of what I have been teaching and live what I teach, and I'll fix my knee myself. So I did. And when I went back to the surgeon, he said, well, what kind of trickery is this? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, here's the picture of your knee when you first come to see me, and here's the picture of your knee now. And we're not going to surgery. I said, oh, that's great, I'll go back to dancing. Fantastic. He said, no, how did that work? And I said, oh, I call it magic. He said, oh, I don't get it, but I don't like what I see here. And I said, you don't like what you see here? And he said, well, this is the mess it was, and now it's straight out of the maker's box. That was his words. So I'm like, hey, cool. I've got a knee straight out of the maker's box. How did I do that? I don't want to buy into having surgery. I didn't want to buy into having a knee that was all mangled. So I would set about every day working on my knee energetically, separating myself from the discomfort and the pain, visualising, seeing my knee as being strong, totally complete, no tears, no damage in it. And here it is. I believe in magic, but I believe in your ability to be amazing. I believe in your ability to do everything that you possibly want to do, but more so for you to be everything that you truly are. Because you're not who you've been raised to be. That is another part of you, but that is not the essence of you. And if you want to claim your life and walk a life where you make the decisions of what happens and you make the determinations of how things work out for you, that's your right and that's your glorious life. Sounds pretty perfect, doesn't it? It's like that fairy tale. Life isn't kind, just like that lady that wasn't kind. Life isn't fair, but it's how you think about it and the actions you take that make the difference for your life, which then makes the difference for everyone around you. The Dalai Lama says, be the change you want to see. I believe the Buddha says the same thing. I think they all say the same thing, and it's true. If you want to see change, you must start change with yourself. A lot of people that I work with have been to a lot of courses, but then they find that a few months after they've done the course, they're back where they started. And that's because they haven't been in alignment with their personal values, and they haven't been in alignment with what is true and real for them. What they've been in alignment with is what they think other people think of them, what they think other people want of them. Can anyone relate? Been there? Thank you. It's so easy, isn't it, to walk that path. It's not so easy to step aside and walk your own path. But if I can encourage you today to really think about the things that you would love to be doing in your life, more so the way that you would like to be in your life, start today with making those small changes. Tap into yourself and become aware of the self-talk. Become aware of how you carry yourself. If you have pain, how much of your thinking goes into that pain? If you've been to a doctor and he says, and they never do this, I'll just write you out a script. No. And he says, no, I'll see you back in a few months because you're going to need some more of that script. You've actually handed your health over to someone else. You've given them charge. You've given them the authority to look after your health. You've also given them the right to say how long you'll live. Not really what your life should be. Think yourself to be amazing. Be aware of your thoughts. Be aware of the way that you talk about yourself, the way you hold conversations. Are the conversations what I like to call a high vibration, or are they low? Are they talking about other people? Are they comparative? One thing women are excellent at is comparing themselves. No? Or you get really dollied up to go out and you feel so hot. Coming out like, looking good. Then I go out and your girlfriend goes, you go, well, what? 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 And she's like, no, nothing. You're like, what? What's the matter with it? No, it's all right. 1 minute you came out going, sizzling, and now you're, Or that famous question, does my butt look big in these jeans? Why do that to yourself? What other people think of you? What other people want to say about you? Oh, it's not your business. It doesn't matter. Because if they are saying things about you, that's their perception of you. Now, here's a perception that I'd really like you to think about today, and that's your perception of reality. If you spend a lot of time on social media, watching the media, reading newspapers, that's your perception of reality. Is it true? Is that true of the reality that you actually live in? Is it true of the reality that you actually want? I don't watch TV. I don't read newspapers. You know why? Because it has no benefit to me. It cannot enrich my life. It cannot help me live the glorious life that I deserve to live and that I choose to live. I hang out with high vibration people. I hang out with people who strive to make the world a better place. Now, I've dealt with all different cultures from around the world, and that one statement always gets people. But Gwenda, you don't understand, I'm Italian. Any Italians in the room or Italian heritage? You don't understand, I'm Italian. My mama, I can't be doing that stuff. It's not always the word they use, but can't always be doing that stuff. Well, yes, you can. You can work within the family environment a little differently, where you start to move away from buying into the expectations and meeting the expectations by the way you behave, when you bring a different energy, when you bring a higher energy that actually talks about things that stimulate, rather than things that criticise or bring things down. So next time you're having a chat with friends or you're having a chat with yourself, ask yourself, is this conversation helping me to live a glorious life? Or is this conversation going nowhere and it's not contributing anything to me? You need to always be aware of where you are at in yourself. You need to own you, nobody else. Don't let someone else tell you when your time is up. And don't let someone else tell you that you have something going on that they can't fix, or that they can only give you medication for. Now, medication has its place sometimes, but I can attest to you that there is so much you can change by changing the vibration of the cells of your body, and that starts from the way that you talk, and the way you think, and the way you step in to your emotional reactions. What's the first thing you do when you get angry? Anybody know? Sorry? Yeah, that's second. Yeah. You actually hold your breath. And in those split seconds, you've now stirred your heart up, your large colon has spasmed, your liver has contracted, your pupils have contracted and dilated, and your heart's gone, whoa, what happened? So now you set off a little catastrophe inside. So if you carry that anger with you, let's have a look at this scenario. I love this scenario. Husband and wife, and he's going out to play darts. She has to get up early in the morning, and she can't sleep if he's not home. So she says to him, you will be home by 10, won't you? Because I need to get up in the morning. He said, yeah, love, yeah, no problem. Off he goes, see you later. 9:30, and she's going, I want to go to bed, I want to go to bed. 9:45, there's no car. She's getting herself wound up. 10 o'clock comes and goes. She's now getting a headache. She's feeling really cranky. She tries to go to bed, tosses and turns, and he rocks in, had a ball. He's been out midnight, and she's been awake, tossing and turning, can't sleep. Where is he? Everything is a mess in here now. She's got tension all around her eyes. He gets into bed. What do you think he does? Out like a light. What's she doing? More and more angry, more and more upset. And why is she upset? You didn't care about me enough to come home. You knew that I had to get up early, but you didn't care enough about me. Anybody heard that kind of scenario before? So in the morning, he gets up and he skips out and he's gone off to work, and she's still mighty angry. She rips the fridge open to get the milk out, and it goes everywhere. Whose fault's that? Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, she's mopping that milk up, and she's got a lot of things to say about him who didn't come home on time, and now she's late for that meeting. So what state has she gone to that meeting in? Terrible. So for the whole day, she's hanging on to that, and everything within her, every single cell in her body is frantic. And many cells are actually starting to fold up and diminish. That's how powerful anger is. That's how powerful your emotions are. So your body is an incredible machine, and it can restore itself over and over and over again. But it's like a piece of string. It can only restore for so long. And that's why you get to a certain point in your life and you get told you've got endometriosis, you've got cysts on the ovaries, you've got a brain tumour, you've got irritable bowel syndrome. You can fix it. You don't have to own that. What you do is you find out how that started, and you release it, and you learn not to be what you've experienced. Does that make sense? Learn not to be what you've experienced. It's just an experience, but it's not who you are. It's not who you are by a long shot. You are an amazing, amazing, unique being. And you're more unique than anyone else near you. And that's what your power is. That's what the wonder of you is. So if your life started pretty badly, and I've had my fair share of things in my life, but that's not me. So over the years, I've done more and more and more of the work that I share with people to help them find their way into be their amazing self. When I was 40, a little while ago, I was a medical enigma, incredibly unique, that I had every medical student, doctor, professor come to see me in hospital, and they all wanted to know, how did this happen? Now, I love this phrase. Oh, this happens to me. My life happens like that. So there's a word health, and I've turned that into how everyone allows life to happen. Nothing happens to you unless you want to own it. Then it happens to you. There are circumstances that Charla was referring to with children around the world, women around the world, that it appears they don't have a way out. They do have a way out, they simply don't know how to get there. Nothing is unchangeable. All you need is someone to come into your life who can show you how to start it. So to think yourself to be amazing and to live a glorious life, sometimes you need the help of someone else to unlock those things that you have become, that you have stepped into, without knowing that you've stepped into it. So what did I do when I was 40? I was super fit. I was actually going to go into a body fit competition. I did say, a mad weight nut. And I was so thrilled with my results. And I was meant to go to training. I was on my way home from work. And I collapsed and thought, oh, maybe I'm not going to training tonight. What's this about? But the pain was excruciating. And I ended up on the floor of my kitchen and I could not get up. And I was trying to go into my space to go, whoa, what is that pain about? Then I wanted to push. Well, hello, how many mums do we have in the room? Oh, push what? But push what? The body wanted to push. I don't know. Oh my Lord, oh, my son, hey mum, what are you doing down there? Oh, it's a new form of breakdancing, child. Jeez. They can't get up. Oh, do you need a hand? You think. So I could not get up. And he's like, but mum, this isn't you. Just, mum, get up. I can't get up. And that's not how I could speak to him. I couldn't speak. I could only shake my head. I'd never experienced such pain. I literally dragged myself along the floor down to the shower. For some reason, I wanted to be in water and I wanted to push. Lord, so I'm in the shower, in my clothes, and I'm still trying to find what this is about. So long story short, I ended up in hospital and I damn near died. I thank God that I'm here to stand with you today because it wasn't much of a fun experience. Anyway, the nurse decided that I was pregnant. And I said, no. My son said, what the hell? He was 20 or something at the time. And my daughter said, oh wow, that's awesome. No, I'm saying no, I can't be pregnant. I can't be pregnant because I've been sterilised for 22 years. How could that happen? 22 years. After that son of mine came, there was not going to be any more. No. If he'd been first, there wouldn't have been any more. So I was sterile and I didn't even have any tubes. So how could I be pregnant? Oh, so then the doctors were like, well, everything indicates you're pregnant. And they just left me. And what they left me to do was bleed to death. I was bleeding internally and bleeding out. So the next day they decided, oh, she doesn't look any better. So they'd take me to theatre and have a bit of a look-see. And yes, I was pregnant. The baby was up here. They had also, I missed this bit out, sorry, they sent me to have an internal look-see. And the young woman radiographer obviously did not think about what she did. And I'm still getting my head around pregnant, that's impossible. I now know impossible means nothing. And she turned the screen around and said, oh look, there's your baby. And I see this little baby flipping around here, little heart going like mad, and that just broke my heart. Because I knew one of us was going to go, or we both were. And that was such a shock. So when they took me to theatre, as I said, I was bleeding out. They couldn't get a vein, and you can see I'm olive complexion. Stay here too many days, I might not be. Whew. But they couldn't get a vein because I didn't have any blood in them. And I've never ever seen myself so white So then the surgeon's sidekick, as I called him, not psychic, sidekick, he came in and said, surgeon says you need to have a blood transfusion. Well, I've got to tell you, if any of you have never lost a lot of blood, you actually can't speak. I had no voice. It was an amazing experience. I couldn't pick a cup up. I couldn't do my hair, a little bit of it. I couldn't do anything. So I was trying to say to him, no. I couldn't say it. So the best I could do was just move my head slowly, and he's saying, what are you saying? What are you saying? Blood transfusion. I'm like, so I was using my eyes, and he said, oh, you don't want a blood transfusion. But you've got to have a blood transfusion or you're going to die. Whoa, there's that word. No, I'm not dying, and you're not going to tell me that I am. So I refused the blood transfusion because, remember, I'm an ex-nurse. And I knew that they could not guarantee me that I wasn't at risk of getting something from a blood transfusion. So then I had a visit from the surgeon, and she ripped me to shreds, and she said that I was stupid, ridiculous, and that I would not be able to recover because I was clearly very fit, and that I would sink into a deep depression. How's all those words going? So you see, if I wanted to take on all of what she was saying, that's exactly where my life would go. If I feared that this was going to take my life, it would have taken my life. But no, I was not going to wear that. So I joined the Popeye Brigade, and I rebuilt my blood with spinach every day. If you're low on iron, eat that spinach, it's awesome. Not the English spinach, the proper one, silver beet. And I had that morning, lunch and evening in everything, and I rebuilt my blood, and I went back to my fitness. There was no way that I was going to entertain someone else's words to me that were not helpful to me, that were not going to allow me to live my glorious life. So I thank you very much for hearing me today. I thank you for being here, and I welcome you to have a chat with me out at my table. Thank you very much.
Big round of applause for Gwenda. Great job.